Hello? Okay, hello. There we go. Okay, I think the audio should be good now. Should I reduce the music a tiny bit? Let's see. How's that? A little bit more. Yeah, there we go. Today I want to talk about something that is rather interesting. If I can just set everything up. I think this should, but okay, there we go. Today I want to explore a new style. It's something that I have wanted to do in a long time, but I've never had the option to do it. And that is to have a bigger. No, that's too big. That's a little bit too big. How's this? Yeah, that's good. I want to talk about my issues with human knowledge. This is something that changed my view of the world quite drastically. Whoops. No. Because when I was like, I don't know, 6 years old, I always thought of human knowledge as a highly rated thing. Like, I thought it was, if I was giving it a 1 to 10 rating, if I thought we're currently at least at an 8 or a 9 out of 10. because you need to realize that something that I had heard a lot was that we have learned everything. Learned it all. And when... Oh. Hello, Anime Man. How you're doing? Yep, I'm not doing bad. How about you? You doing good? This is something that I was told quite a lot when I was a child. So in my mind, I had agreed that we have learned everything because that's what I was told. But one thing that gave me a uneasy feeling was when I was 6 years old, I went to the kitchen. Let's say this is the counter. And let's say this is the sink. And let's draw some cupboards here as well. Like so. Yeah. I went in the kitchen, found some cherries actually. I grabbed the cherries, I grabbed some water, and there was also some soap here. I grabbed the soap. I put them in a bowl. And then proceeded to mash them. And then I waited. And guess what? Nothing happened. Nothing. I was like, okay, that didn't do anything. So, yeah, that's a bit right. Yeah. How do chemists make stuff happen? I was like, okay, I don't know. So, step one, ask someone. I went to my mom and I asked her this question. I was like, question mark. Do you know what she answered? She told me, she said, I don't know. I have no idea. I have no clue. Then I was there. My eyes looking like this, with questions all over the place. That ingrained a deep curiosity in my mind. I was a curious child. Curious, I think it's that, right? I didn't know, and I had questions. A lot of questions. And because my mother didn't know, I assumed, well, someone else might know. But it was a question. Will someone else know? So, that's one of the main reasons that I was paying extra attention in class. When we were in school and the teacher was up front, I usually sat in the front as well. Me, right here. And I always wanted to ask questions. My question is, how do they do it? What makes chemical substances? How do they achieve it? Because when I tried to mix some stuff up, nothing happened. What makes chemical mixtures what they are? And why? That's another thing that I always kept asking. Why? So, it kept going. This did not get answered until much, much later when I was in... If I grab a good color, there we go. No, that's too bright. I don't like it. How about one? Right as well. Yeah, this one. Yeah, this is good. when I was in high school, we had chemistry 2, I believe. Chemistry 2, like the second one. And our teacher was talking about the periodic table, as well as, like, if I roughly draw a periodic table here, like, I think it's like 2 here and one like bunch here, like an extra one on top, like one here, I think. This is hydrogen, helium, etc. And he was talking about how the ones that are one shy of being perfect gases, the ones that are right here, tend to have chemical reactions with the ones that are here, right here. If I pull up a periodic table. A periodic table is just that work? No? Not just drop an image in here? Doesn't seem like I can drop an image in here. I have to like save it. Desktop first. Let's go to Wikipedia. This image right here. Yeah, I want it. Give it to me. A download, not that big one. Large is good. Yeah. Now I should be capable of dragging it in. Now? Oh, maybe I should do it in this form. Oh yeah, there we go. That's how it works. If I press Alt R and then RX 90, then scale it up, go to the top view, bring it behind the image, go to the front. Let's put it here. And this big, actually let's make it bigger so we can see it better. And we could just zoom. Yeah, let's go like that. Draw mode. Okay. So let's call him Mr. C. I don't actually remember the name. So Mr. C was talking about how, for example, fluoride here may create a, like a, what's the word? I forget the word. Like a compound. Yeah, that's the word. For example, fluoride there may create a compound with this one, AMG. I forget the name. Probably, I don't know how it's pronounced in English. Did I look it up? Yeah, let's look it up. So, all again, and MG. It says magnesium. Yeah, that's the one. I always mistake this one with this one, which is manganese. Okay, magnesium. Okay. Magnesium over there. And fluoride over here. Put it on stroke. Fluorine. Because this guy needs one more electron in its layers to become a noble, equivalent to a noble gas, and this guy has one extra. Actually, it has 2 extra. Yeah, it has 2 extra. It has 2 extra, and it will be good. 2 extra. If do I have to explain this? Probably too much detail. This guy wants to lose, this guy wants to gain 1 electron. This guy wants to lose 2 electrons. So, if we go, this guy gives 1 electron, gains 1 electron, and this guy wants to lose 2 electrons. So if we have 2 of this and 1 of this, so this will connect to those 2, and boom, we got a compound. But he said, just because this way of looking at it could work, does not mean necessarily that these compounds, the hypothetical compounds, will exist if you go looking for them, or if they will be stable if you create them. I asked him, okay, why? He was like, he gave up a bunch of reasons, like this. And then he said, I'm not sure. This kind of bugged me quite a bit. Enough for me to press on. Okay, I said, why are you not sure? He said, well, at the end of the day, chemistry... Okay, how do I translate this? An observation-based... he said chemistry is an observation-based science. At the end, I realized all sciences are observation-based. Which is to say, for us humans to understand something, we look at it, we listen to it, we touch it, put our hand on it, and we measure it with one. Let's simplify the idea with a magnifying glass. I don't think I'm competent enough to draw a microscope off the top of my head, but it should look something like this. So the question is, just because when we measured it, when we looked at it, when we tested it, it did one thing, does that mean that it will always do that one thing, or are there other possibilities? Well, of course, we humans know that, and we try to compensate for that by testing something a whole bunch of times. Like, the idea of how science is created is something like this. Person 1 goes and tests something. Wow, that's terrible. Person 1 goes and tests something, and then person 2 goes and recreates that test. Well, yeah, let's go with that. And then person 3 has to go recreate that test all over again. If we all agree, if the result is the same thing every time, then we say, okay, this checks out. For example, when the first guy looked at the very first microscopes, right? He went to a lake and grabbed a sample, a single drop of water. He put it on the slide and looked at it. He looked, and do you know what he saw? He saw living, moving, seemingly alive things in there. Let's say, like, they look like this. And they jiggle. They move. It's obvious they're doing something. So he was like, what? He said, bugs? Or something like that. Obviously, these are not his exact words. These are my interpretation of it because my memory is not particularly good. And what he did was he reached out. He told other scientists. And do you know what they said? They said, you're crazy. You are crazy. They didn't believe it. Until he said, okay, then do it yourself. Try it. Then they did. Well, whoops. There you go. They tried it, and it was the same result. And after many people did the same test and reached the same result, a new field of science was created. It was, I think, microbiology or something. Something along the lines. Biology, I think there's an O here. Biology, like that, I think. But before we ever looked, we had no idea this even existed. So the question becomes, if we don't even have the tools to measure, if we don't have the tools to measure to begin with, how will we ever learn it? We can't. We simply cannot learn something that we cannot observe, we cannot measure. If we cannot measure it, is that how you write measure? Probably. If we can't measure it, if we can't observe it, if we can't sense it, then there is no knowledge to be gained. If there's none of these, none of this, none of this, then no knowledge. That was deeply upsetting to me. If we go back up to here, one thing that I asked Mr. C was something akin to this. Let's say hypothetically that we have a hypothetical compound between, say, nickel over here. No, okay, not nickel. Let's say iron. No, that's too well known. Yeah, let's go this one. This guy. If we have a pure, what even is the name of that? Nobelium. That's a really weird name. I'm gonna go with another one. I can't even read that. Fermium. Yes, let's go with that. That's a more neutral name. Let's say we have fermium. We have only ever created like 0.1 times the 10 to the power of -5 grams of this material. What's the word? Yeah, I should have translated some of these words ahead of time. What's the word? What's the word? Element. Ah, yeah, that's the one. From this element, we've only ever created this much, so it is not enough to look at and see what color it is. You know? If something is small enough, the concept of color doesn't even apply to it. Because to even have the concept of color, we first need to see it. And if we cannot see it, well, it's not going to be doable. If something is small enough at this scale, at this level of scale, the only real way to measure it is with an electronic microscope. And the way an electronic microscope works is something like this. It shoots electrons at the subject. Let's say the subject is here. And then some electrons bounce off and some go down. Using either the ones that bounced off or the ones that went through, we can create an image. Oh, look, a single atom. You could do that. That's totally doable. But when you do it this way, no color. None at all. Because electrons don't tell you that kind of data. If you want color, you need photons. And when you're using photons, they're pretty all over the place. Which means if you want to get the average for what the reflection's wavelength would be, you need a ton of photons. And your material... Whoops. Come on. Don't be like that. You also need a ton of materials. So, when your sample is this small, you're not going to get any idea about the color. So, my question was, if we grabbed a bunch of this and put it together, hypothetically, what color would it be? I assume that science is all-powerful, a full 100% understanding of the idea, the concept, what it would do, all that goodness. And because I was under the impression that science is so powerful, I thought for sure we would know this. We would know. Do you know what Mr. C said? He said, we don't know. We do not know. And the way he said it, of course, I haven't gone to every single scientist in the world and asked them this question, but the way he said it, it made me feel like we can't know. And that deeply upset me because I was under the impression that we have knowledge, but we don't. You freaking don't. It upsets me deeply, but human knowledge is just weak. We only have a top-down understanding of something. Our understanding goes from observation, and thus, if this is depth of knowledge, depth of knowledge, I think it's like that, yeah. We start from the top and basically just mess around blindly trying to figure out what this says. It's not a bottom-up understanding to the point where something we say will not exist cannot exist. If we say it can't exist, then it will not. This will not happen because our knowledge is merely based off of what we tried out. So down here it could be anything, as far as we know. For example, just tomorrow we could have a goddamn sphere appearing in the sky and no one being capable of explaining it. This is less weird than the things we have gone through throughout history. Just think about microbiology. How about the guy that first found it? No one believed him. It was like, that can't be a thing. That's not a thing. It was a thing. And that upsets me. Our knowledge is so shallow, so weak, and yet some people dare. They have the gall to say, we have learned it all. We have not learned it all. We have learned nothing, bro. It's laughable how little we know. The reason that people think we've learned it all is that they can see only from their eyes to their noses. This is their entire vision. From the eye to the nose. As soon as you look past your nose, you'll see that we know nothing about the world. It's so goddamn complicated and we know so little. Inherently, probably because of the way our knowledge is created. We just mess around and find out. We don't have a deep understanding. And the whole concept of deep understanding can't even be made because of the way we learn it. The way we work is we first observe, then we guess. And then we set up an experiment to see, is it right or is it not? If it is right, then okay. Other people do it again. Do it again. If it is done many times, if it's checked many times, then you say, okay, that passes. That is knowledge now. But that's a very shallow understanding. And at any time, if this stops being the case, this will stop being knowledge. And we can't even prevent it. Remember, microbiology again. We thought we knew, and then we saw that we don't. And we keep seeing stuff like this all the time. It's frustrating, you know? They came into this world expecting knowledge. But I was scammed. It's a scam. If these are the things we know, these are the things we know that we don't know. If this is no, this is No, that don't. And God knows how big. Don't know that we don't even is, because we can't even comprehend it. Another example of the whole microbiology story is dark matter. How did we figure out that dark matter exists? I think it goes a little something like this. We use telescopes to look at the stars. And then, that's not how stars look like. Boop, 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 boop. We try to calculate the orbit. Now, this is the galaxy, and the stars of, for example, this region are here. We try to calculate the orbit, like they should go around, right? And if you think about it, the further away these bad boys are, the slower they should go. If you can't, like, think, you know, if it doesn't make sense to you immediately, yeah, let me put it this way. Yeah, let's say you have a string and then a ball attached to it. Okay, then you spin, right? No, that's not a good example. That's not a good example. Yeah, if you don't know enough about astronomy, I believe, yeah, astronomy, this might not make sense to you, but just trust me, I don't know enough about it to be capable of explaining it easily, but this velocity, when you go further away from the center, after a certain point, it should start slowing. You know? You should need less velocity to maintain this orbit. So, if we graph this from the center to the edge, it should look like this. The part that is the center of the mass, like the average of all this mass would be here. The radius, average radius of all the mass. If it's here, let's say it's here, it should be like, at first it should be lower, and then it should increase. Okay, this is radius. Right? This is radius, right? Yeah, it's radius. This is radius, and this is velocity. Right? No, I think it's the other way around. This is radius, right? Like higher radius, yeah. And this is velocity. More this way, it's more velocity. Yes, it's more velocity. So the velocity should increase up to a maximum, which is here, the average of the mass, and then it should drop, I believe. It should require less energy to stay in orbit. I think. Maybe. Take this with a grain of salt. I'm not that good at this stuff. But when they looked, that's not what happened. The thing is, the way you calculate this average is based on what you can see. And this is not something we could have done before computers existed, because this is a really complicated, really a lot of calculations. And these are usually done with supercomputers. And when they grabbed the supercomputers and did all the testing, no matter what parameters they set, no matter what they did, galaxies didn't form. No galaxies at all. Or at least not galaxies with the same mass that we saw. So they looked again. And do you know what they noticed? We assumed, based on what we saw, that the average mass is roughly here. So the ones that are further away, or like the edge here, they should be slower. So we're like, okay, let's test it out. Let's see if they're actually slower. Do you know what happened? This is the expectation, right? But sadly, that's not what reality was. The reality was closer to this. Do you know what this means? This means that even these guys at the corner of the galaxy are still below the average radius of the mass. Like if you were to grab all the particles on this, everything that has mass in this, and then get the average distance from the center, it would be further away than these guys at the edge of the galaxy. But we looked and there's nothing here. We don't see anything here. There's no mass that we can figure out. And that's where dark matter came into existence. How do we know it exists? Well, we know it exists because there's not enough mass. We can see the effects of mass here, but there isn't enough mass. We can figure that out, and there is not enough mass. So where is the mass? We don't know. We just know that there is, and thus we named it dark matter. It's matter because it has mass, and it's dark because we can't see. We can't see it. And this buzz, by the way, does not refer to something, let's say can't see and doesn't interact with photons. Yeah, that's a better way. It doesn't interact with photons at all. Because if it was just dark, if let's say this is a dark matter particle, and this is a star, the light would go through it. The light wouldn't go through it, and this is our eyes right here. We would see a black spot here. But we don't. We do not see any black spot. It goes right through, assuming that's where it is. We can't see it. The photons from distant stars don't seem to affect it at all. Don't seem to get affected at all. So, it must exist. It must exist, even though we can't see it. You see the problem here? We think it's there. We're pretty sure it's there. We can't see it. We can't measure it, but we see its effects. But what is it? What does it do? We don't know. And as far as right now comes, we cannot know. Because in order to learn more about that, we need to be capable of experimenting on it. But for the life of us, we can't even figure out where it is. Is it everywhere? Probably, that's our guess. It's everywhere around galaxies. Anywhere else that there's matter, there's this thing. Dark matter. But we're not sure exactly when. The problem arises when people think they know, and they know nothing. In order to see the human knowledge issue, yes, like that, you need to be outside of the know. You need to at least have some vision to what we know that we don't know. When all you can see is this is the know part, like this is just the know. When you're so insignificant and you're so small that all you can see is like a small pocket inside of the know, to you it seems like we know everything. But in reality, we know nothing. This is just so frustrating. Because I was hoping to go to university, hoping to go to school and actually learn, only to realize we know so little, it is embarrassing. It upsets me, you know? It's pathetic. I probably hear knowledge, the background, and original question the issue with the box. The box is just a metaphor for something. The box could basically be a metaphor for just dark matter. If I give you a box and tell you, figure out what's in it, but the box is impenetrable, nothing will go through, then how will you figure out what's inside? You merely cannot know. No matter how many people you give this box to, if there's no way to see the inside of it, no magnetic waves will go through, no material will go through, no photons, no rays, no nothing, then how will you figure out what's in it? It's been 43 minutes, and I'm hoping future me can look at this and say, wow, you suck, you know nothing. And that would be good, because that means the future me knows at least a little bit more. Ugh. When I was a child, I wanted to become a teacher at some point. Because I thought to myself, I think that's what I thought to myself. When you're really good at something, when you're like super good and you know a lot, if not everything, then it's your responsibility to teach the next generation. Because when you know nearly everything, when you're the best at your field, the best thing you can do is raise a next generation that's better than you, because they have teachers that are better than themselves. They have teachers that are better than the teachers you had. And this way, we would have generation after generation better and better people. But the reality is that the best in each field do not become teachers. Teaching isn't even considered a high-tier job. That's so upsetting. Because you'd expect teachers to be like really high up the ladder. But in reality, if this was the social ladder, the teachers are like here. Even though they are the ones that create the next generation, and they are the ones that determine the growth of our species, in a way, they are super underrated. They're not given enough resources. If we had this going on, the best people became teachers, and teaching was the highest honor possible, our growth could look like this. But right now, our growth is like this. This is hypothetical, by the way, of course. But I think it would be a big deal. Hypothetical. Now. Because if you look at it over the course of history, many knowledge, many understandings that we get over time can get lost, and then we have to rediscover it. Because when knowledge is localized, when that localized area is destroyed, that knowledge is lost. It is also gone. We can't recover it anymore. We don't have access to it. And the words and even books are not as solid of a transfer tool as one might think. Because language changes. The way we interpret language also changes. Reminds me of when you consider something to be pedestrian, to be basic, you don't explain it. When you start writing, when I started the stream, I didn't start explaining what language is, what it means, and how you can understand it, what change means, because that's basic. There's no need to explain this. But when you look back on it and to say 8,000 years later, someone could look at this and say, what does this mean? What does that mean? What is this one? And there would be no answer. Well, of course, there are ways to try, but there's no definitive answer. Let's go to the future. Let's go to the future in base of what we currently understand as, say, 20 billion years. No, that's too little. 2 million billion years in the future. At that point, the universe, based off of what we currently understand to be the future of the universe, will have expanded. If this is the universe right now, we're here, and these are the things that you can see. But no, these are the things that you can theoretically see, like as in the photons will still reach you. If in the future this expands so much that it becomes like this, and this is all you can actually reach, you know what would happen? In this hypothetical future, when you look at the night sky, everything you'll see will be within your galaxy. All of it will be your galaxy. So at that point, if you ask yourself, well, what's the world? How big is the universe? Well, the answer will be that. That is the universe from your point of view. Because no photons from outside of your galaxy will even reach you. So, to your knowledge, this is it. This is the whole universe. So how will you learn of other galaxies in such a situation? You simply cannot learn more. So the question is, have there been phases like this in the past? Have we had situations that knowledge is irreparably lost? Knowledge that no longer can be obtained? Lost knowledge? We can't know. We simply cannot. But the feeling, the thought, the concept, it scares me. If we sterilize the planet, if we nuke the planet, if a gamma ray hit us and we completely evaporated every little speck of dust on this planet, would we even know that life existed? We wouldn't. And records, they fade with time. Knowledge is lost. But is the possibility of knowledge also lost? I think it is. If we were alive, let's say 13 billion years ago, if roughly I draw a graph of the expansion of the universe based on what we understand it to be, it looks like this. The expansion over time. At the very start of the universe grew very rapidly, like whoa, and then it slowed down, and then it started picking pace up again. So why? Why did it do that? And if we were alive here, would we see other knowledge? Is there knowledge in this time that we can no longer access? These are all questions. Don't know the answer. I'm not the answers guy. I'm the questions guy. The things that we can know, things that I can know, I can theoretically know if there are 100 of them, hypothetically. The time to learn them. Okay, that's not good. Let's go with things I can know, assuming infinite time, eventually. If we compare that to things that I can know, in my life, at best it's like 1. Not even that, it's like 0.6. There are so many things that I could learn, but there's not enough time. For example, let's have a look at an example that you understand somewhat. You know, well, whoops. You know Warframe, right? I wanted to talk about damage numbers and such. That's why I created Min-Max's Dream. And before that, the damage calculator. My question was, what is the best build? What is the best build? The reason for this question was that I made the recommended series video, and people were like, no, that's not good. And I was like, okay, what's a way that I can figure out the answer to that question, to what is the best build, in a way that everyone can agree? Well, science, of course. Science. But turns out, you can't. Because the deeper you look, the more questions you'll get, but the less knowledge you'll actually get. When I looked at what's the best build, at first I thought, okay, there is like one build that is good everywhere. That's the best. But when I looked deeper, I said, okay, maybe there's 3, 1 for each faction. Like faction. Like 1, 2, and 3. And then I looked deeper. Okay, maybe it's 1 for each faction for like different levels. Let's say above 100 and below 100. Like it would be 3 times 2, which is like faction multiplied by level. So it would be 2 for each one. And then I looked deeper and I was like, okay, it's faction. Why'd they do that? Faction times level times weapon type. Oh no, we're talking about one weapon here. It was faction multiplied by level multiplied by build type or playstyle. Yeah, that's the better one. Okay, so there's 3 factions, 3 main factions. Let's say there's 2 level ranges, and let's say there are like 4 playstyles. Okay, that's too many. Let's say there's just 2 playstyles, and we end up with 9. No, end up with 12. And it kept happening. Every time that I looked deeper, I saw more questions. At first, I had, let's say, question to answer ratio. At first, I had 1 questions and 0 answers. Then I had 3 questions and 0 answers. And then I looked further, I found 12 questions and 0 answers. You get what I'm saying? No matter how deep you look, at the end, you need to say, okay, that's enough. That's enough of a scope. Because if you keep expanding your scope, eventually it will contain the entirety of human knowledge. Where is it? This thing. If you keep expanding your scope, it'll eventually become the question of what does it even mean? And why? Why that? Why not something else? In the end, you have to say, that's good enough. And you have to say, you have to just come up with answers without fully understanding the question itself. The matter itself, not the question, the matter. If you keep diving, you'll just find infinitely more questions and no answers. At some point, they'll say, okay, what's the good answer till here? And all of this? No, none of that. Just if we only consider these ones, what's the answer? And this one you can answer. There is an answer to this one. And that's where you get your answers. Now you start going up and all the way to like 1, 2, 3, and all the way to 12. All 12 of your answers. But you know full well that this is only happening when you ignore this. And that these answers do not apply to everyone. Every situation, every possibility. They do not. That's upsetting. Just this basic questions, I've spent 4 years of my life on. Okay, was it 4 years? Actually, let me look it up. How long has it been? If you look at my videos, this question was started here. This is where the question started. The very first recommended series, recommended primary weapons 4 years ago. I've been working on it ever since. Where is the first video that I started talking about it? Right here, 3 years ago. This is after I had some stuff on me. So realistically, this question has been in my mind. I've been processing this question for 4 years. 4 years of work only to end up with more questions than when I started. That's how human knowledge works. We look, we try to understand, but we get more questions than answers. It's the same thing. What we know and what we don't know. If you calculate the volume, not the surface area of these two circles, no matter how much you expand this know, the don't know will expand at a faster rate. It's just bigger. If you expand your know, so will your don't know, because you can see further now. At some point, you'll have to say that's good enough of a knowledge for this problem. You have to cut corners. That's how human knowledge works. Because if we wanted to go as deep as we could, as deep as can be done, we would never answer any questions. We can only answer questions when we cut corners, when we simplify. And that's annoying. It angers me. I want true knowledge. Where is it? It doesn't even exist as far as I know. Everything we know is subject to change if new information is found. And we can never be 100% sure that there is no new information to find. In 10 years' time, I'm hoping someone will find this video. Someone will see it in my catalog of old streams, look at it, and give me responses. Tell me, this is how you reach true knowledge. Go there, do this. But to my knowledge, it simply doesn't exist. I've been streaming for an hour now. Usually I stream for longer, but this subject, this new experimental style of just rambling on about things that I want to talk about, I like it. I know no one's gonna look at it, no one's gonna watch it, that's fine. I don't care really. What I want to learn is streaming. Streaming is useful. Look at all my thoughts laid out here. Oh my god. Disturbing the peace, Ghost Ninja? Feel free. How can I reach true knowledge? How? It just doesn't make sense. How can we get more answers when every time we look further, all we find are more questions? The only time we feel like we have more answers is when we're stuck in the human know. Is when we're stuck on a basic level of understanding. As soon as we expand it past what we already knew or was easy to learn, we reach the don't know. And even beyond that, we reach the don't know that we even don't know. How can you learn something when you don't even have the fundamentals of understanding it, when you can't observe it, when you can't see it, when you can't see its effects yet? How can we even learn that? And it annoys me. Why is it like that? Why is this world like that? It upsets me. The more you know, Ninja. Ghost Ninja says sleeping helps, and in my case, sleep is fricked. I basically lost most of my normal abilities of sleeping in university, and I have not gained them back. So, Ghost Ninja, what do you do when you don't know that you don't know? It's a good question, as are many others, but how do you even begin to understand something like that? There's just not enough time, you know? You sleep, huh? Ghost Ninja says I sleep. Sleep doesn't help me, that's for sure. Because if I wake up wrong, if I learn something new about sleep and how it operates, that day I will be stressed from when I wake up till when I sleep. Just recently when I learned about, or not learned about, I experienced the sleep paradox where one side of my brain was asleep and dreaming. I was still hearing stuff in the dream in my right ear, but the left ear was hearing stuff that are outside. If I clapped, if I did this, I snapped my fingers, I would hear it in my left ear, but the right ear was still in the dream. It was still dreaming. The two sides of my brain seemed in conflict. And do you know how it felt? It gave me dread. It gave me panic. It gave me anxiety. It gave me a panic attack. What I wanted to do was grab a knife and cut myself in half. That's how much it hurt. I used to say, I wish for the ability to sleep half my brain, keep my other half functional so I can not need sleep. But oh god, I do not wish for that anymore. Dolphins can do it, though I don't know if they can dream in that state. But I experienced it, and oh my god, you don't want to experience it. Every time when I am fully functional, like my consciousness is fully awake, but I'm actually still in sleep, and I start waking myself up, in that moment in between, if you don't lose all your memories of that moment, you're not gonna have a fun time. Trust me, you do not want to explore that. It's terrifying. It brings questions to reality itself. Because how do you know you're even awake right now? Because when you're at the very deepest part of your dreams, you also don't know that you're dreaming. You can only tell that you're dreaming when you're in a light dream. Deep dreams, you'll not remember them even. Because if you do, if you even remember the half-deep dreams, you'll start questioning reality itself. Just imagine, you wake up, you do your stuff, you do your chores, you do all the stuff, you go to the university, you come back, and then you wake up again. What if you do it again and it happens again? What if you do it again and it happens again? What if it happens hundreds of times? Have you ever thought about that? I don't need to think about it because I have experienced it in the past. It hurts. It's suffering. It makes you not want to live. It makes you not want to sleep. Ghost Ninja says, what if dreams are another you in another dimension? They're not another you. They cannot be because of lucid dreams and because of people that can remember their transition. Like me. Sometimes I remember the transition completely. Like Ghost Ninja says, that would make a great anime plot. Many things make good anime plots, but there's not enough time to make all of them. Is there? When you're in the dream state, and then the awake state. Oops. If your sleep is bad enough, you will have the ability to fully remember and be conscious past this transition. And let me tell you, it brings dread, it brings panic, it brings stress like you've never seen. You'll not even be yourself. You'll not even be who you normally are if you experience this until you sleep again. And then you wake up right. Which is to say, no transition. Ghost Ninja says, what makes you keep dream memory though? What's the trigger? Well, just bad sleep quality. If you have issues with your sleep, if you have problems, if you have mental issues and such, and the healthy thing is to not remember. Because if you remember, you'll have problems. Remembering is not a good thing. It's like not having your arm. Like, consider this. If you don't have your right arm, you're missing something. If you don't have the ability to forget what you're dreaming about, you have a problem. A very big problem at that. There was a period of time for about, say, I don't know exactly, but say 4 to 6 months. Okay, that's hard to read actually. It's a different color. Let's say is that even visible? Nah, let's just use black. Yeah. There was a 4 to 6 month period. Maybe I should make this a bit bigger. Whoops. Is it too big? No, that's too big. There was a 4 to 6 months period where I remembered everything. Remembered all dreams when I woke up. Or if not all, many. Because you can't prove that you remembered all of them, but I remembered many of them. The concept of reality started fading. The consequences of this are reality will fade. Why do I keep making that mistake? Memory itself, the concept of a memory, will fade. The concept of you will wither. Past and future will become interchangeable in a sense, which is mostly based off of the memory one, because you don't remember when something happened, you just remember that something did. Past becomes a question. The question is, was it a dream? Or was it real? You do not want to experience that, ever. No one should. No one should wish for remembering their dreams. Only an ignorant person, someone that doesn't know, would ever wish for this. This is not good. If you ever started remembering multiple dreams, back to back maybe, you should see a doctor, because something's wrong with you. Just think about it. At any given time, you don't know if you're real or not. If you don't know what your experience is even real, you can't remember everything, but you can remember things that you shouldn't remember. When you're awake, you have this thing called choice. But when you're dreaming, you don't always have choice, because dreams are based off of what you've done. Dreams are based upon experiences. You cannot dream what you have not experienced. If you have not experienced, then you cannot dream about it, usually. Some say that they do, but to my experience, to my memory, to my dreams, usually, most of the time, something you haven't experienced, you will not dream about. A good example of this is the blind dream, you know? Do you know how blind people dream? Ask yourself that question. Do blind people dream? And if they do dream, what do they see? Well, they don't see, because the whole... Oh, that's gonna get annoying. That has already gotten annoying. They don't dream to see because they don't have the ability to see. I'm talking about people that have never had vision. Ghost Ninja says, some dreams used as a version of the future or a warning or a message. No. Have you experienced that yourself, though? That's the question, my friend. Have you? Because if your future is somewhat in the same realm of possibilities, in the same plane of existence, in the same style as your experiences, then you can dream about it. Because you cannot experience what you have never even been capable of understanding. You say, don't remember lol? Exactly, that's the problem. People that remember many dreams have very questionable memory. See how it's counterintuitive, right? Like you would expect good memory. You'd expect good memory to go hand in hand with good dream remembrance. But it's not thus. It is the other way around. In fact, good dream remembrance actually connects better to bad memory. Isn't that funky? Isn't that funny? When you wake up, that very instance, I'm pretty sure, like 90% sure, maybe 70% sure, maybe, that it's proven that the instant you woke up, like if we draw a graph here, this is when you wake up. And this is your dream memory. Let's say vivid is here and none is here. This very instant, if somebody wakes you up in the middle of deep sleep, just shakes you, and then they immediately ask you, what was you dreaming about? you're likely to answer. But if we do let you wake up normally and then ask you, you're likely to say nothing. I don't remember anything. That lets us know that our brain, first of all, usually when we wake up normally, if this is somebody wake you up, right? Wake you up force by force. If someone doesn't wake you up by force, it will look like this instead. This is natural wake up. It looks something like this. This is vivid. And this is none. The usual, I'm talking about the usual, not the exception. Like healthy people, most of the time, this is how it looks like. If you wake them up by force, they'll absolutely remember what they were dreaming. But if you wait, they'll forget. As if we go to the memory of your brain, mem and brain, the dream memories are stored differently. They're like stored here, but the normal memories are here. As in, I'm talking about the color here. Normal and dream. Change the color back. And after a little bit, like an agent shows up and is like, oh, this is a dream memory, remove that. As we see, we start to forget it. But we don't usually, at least normal humans, don't forget the normal ones that quickly. Do they? Your normal experiences stick out far longer than the dream ones. It's as if the dream memories are like a volatile compound that starts decaying very quickly. And we seem to lose the ability to recall them as well. It's one thing to have the memory, and it's another thing to have the ability to recall it. Those are not necessarily the same thing. But the connection seems to be lost, seems to be overwritten, seems to be erased completely. When you wake up normally, usually you don't remember anything from the start to the finish. Just don't. Nothing to remember. But when your memory is fricked, it seems like those agents can't tell the difference between the normal ones and the dream ones. And do you know what that does? What it does is allows you to remember them. And if it's bad enough, you can remember many of them and even record them. That's one of the main reasons that every time I dream something that's somewhat interesting and I remember it, I send it in Discord. Because even if I forget, Discord won't. Back to the blind thing. If you close your eyes, what do you see? Ghost Ninja says, they say that when you experience deja vu, it's not past experiences, but a glitch in the mind. What do you think? One moment. I think I have a really good interest in what am I saying? I think I have a really solid concept for deja vu. I've tried to experiment on this, and I think I have got it nailed down. Based off of my experiences, grab the black. Deja vu, usually, the basic deja vu, well, maybe we should categorize it in two different categories, but the one I'm talking about, you'll figure out which one I'm talking about as I talk about it. The usual deja vu, the feeling that you've done something before, or as if this is the second time you're doing it, or as if you perceived it before it happened. Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about. Perceived before happening. I got many explanations for this, but the one that stuck with me the most is this one. Let's say you have a computer, right? And it should look like this. This computer writes logs, it's logging what's happening. And each of these logs, let's say they're like files in a folder, has a time. Our understanding of time is based off of the memory. If you have no memory, you have no time. That can be easily proven by my example, or at least given an example with me, because I can't tell the difference between something that happened 2 hours ago, 1 day ago, or 3 years ago. They're all the same to me. Not necessarily always, but many times. I can't tell the difference between something that happens earlier today and something happens 3 years ago. They're basically the same thing. So, if our understanding of our time is based off of our memory, that would stand to reason that when this guy is logging, it says like, okay, 3 a.m., 3.01 a.m., 3.02 a.m. Deja vu happens when you log it like this. You log this at 3:02 a.m. and then your mind's timer basically corrects itself. Oh, okay, it's not 3:02, it's 3:01 right now, and then logs the next one at 3:01 a.m. What happens is, now because your understanding of time is based off of memory, in your understanding of what happened is this. You perceived it first and then it happened. See? It happened right here. Perceived it. See? And then the next one would be at 3:03. Because the order is now incorrect, your mind will basically shuffle these around and put something that happened in the now, past, and future. These will be reordered to be like this. Now, past, future. So now, you've perceived something before it happened. The past is ahead of the now, as if you've seen something before you saw it. See the way it works? That's how I understand it happening. You saw something happening before it actually happened. That's what deja vu is to me. Any questions? So hot in here. Even though it's actually cold, I'm just worked up. Memory, time, deja vu, dreams, they're all connected. Yes, you get it now, because I think that's a good explanation. That's the way I've internalized it, and from that moment on, it has just made sense. That every time it happened, I think about it, and yeah, it makes sense. That's what happened. I haven't seen an example of this not working yet. If it happens in the future, I'll have to rework my theory. But thus far, this checks out. One hour and 26 minutes. I think that's long enough. If I was playing a video game or something, I might have gone longer. Oh wait, am I not in orthographic view? Why is this fading? Maybe I should increase the maximum view. No, it's just the size. That makes more sense, I guess. These are thicker. these boys. I just appreciate Blender so much, you know? So good, it's so useful for so many things. A 3D software that lets you do 2D canvas stuff, that's just awesome. So many more. Alright then, I think that's enough. Oh, whoops. I think the stream got cut for a moment. Obviously, that was expected to happen eventually. Probably have happened multiple times, actually. I should have recorded this. But thinking back on it, which part of this is that important to record? So yeah, I think I'll see you guys next time. And for now, bye-bye. Especially you, the Ghost Ninja one. I'll see you next time, and bye-bye.